Two men have been charged over the murder and disappearance of 21-year-old County Antrim woman Chloe Mitchell. Detectives from the PSNI's major investigation team have charged a 26-year-old man with murder and a 34-year-old man with assisting offenders. Alison Morris, columnist with the Belfast Telegraph and commentator specialising in politics and security, is on the line. Alison, good morning.
Good morning.
What can you tell us about Chloe Mitchell?
Yeah, so Chloe had went missing. She was last seen in the early hours of last Saturday morning in Ballymena. She was 21 years of age. She has a family who were very, very distraught for her and had made numerous appeals to try and get some information about her whereabouts. But at the end of last week, police had indicated that it was now a more serious investigation. It was now a murder investigation, and that they were really concerned for Chloe's welfare, and two people then were obviously arrested. Yesterday then we had a further development in that Chloe's remains believed to be Chloe were discovered at the back of the house in Ballymena. It's been, I suppose, a really terrible time for even for that community. There was a prayer service held in Harryville last night that was attended by some of Chloe's family and friends, and right now I'm sitting waiting on the two people who have been charged that appearing in Ballymena Magistrates Court to have those charges put to them. One man has been charged with murder and another one with assisting an offender.
One of the questions that will be raised, of course, is the discovery of the body at a premises where someone was previously arrested and the time lapse in between. Yeah,
because those arrests were made at the end of last week. They were made on Friday, and the body or the remains of Chloe were only discovered yesterday, and obviously there's questions asked as to why they weren't found sooner, because it was from the address where a man had been arrested. Now police are saying it was outside that property where the remains were finally found. It seems to be that information was provided to them possibly during one of the interview processes, but I mean for Chloe's family there's clearly going to be questions asked as to why it took another additional few days before her remains were discovered, given the fact that someone had been arrested from that property just a few days before.
Because there had been expressions of hope that Chloe was somehow alive and well, even just prior to the discovery of her body, and people were living in hope that she might not have come to very serious harm.
Yeah, and I mean there were searches being carried out in and around the River Braid, which is in Ballymena. There were searches being carried out around there and various different properties, and it's been a massive policing operation. But the family were clearly still hopeful that maybe she was being held somewhere against her will, or maybe she'd got into a bit of trouble somewhere and she was just afraid to come home. They were making countless appeals, hoping that she would obviously show up alive and well. And unfortunately now we're at the point where obviously two men have been charged in connection with disappearance. So I mean, I think this brings to about 39, I think, the number of women murdered here since 2017. That's just in Northern Ireland, where we have one of the highest rates of femicide, next only to Romania, in all of Greater Europe. So, I mean, it's a real issue in terms of violence against women and girls, violence that is almost always perpetrated by men, and we still obviously have no stormont, so we were meant to have a strategy to deal with violence against women and girls, and that hasn't been implemented. But I know that the police have been trying of recent to try and change practices and resources around that. But I mean, the death of Chloe, and I know, speaking to other families as they did over the weekend who have lost their loved ones and young women, and also, you know, equally horrific circumstances, that every time something like this happens, it brings back their loss as well, and their grief, and their thoughts obviously were with Chloe's family over the weekend.
And it appears from what we've heard reported that she would have at least been acquainted with one of those charged.
Yeah, and one of them is very well known to police and would have been very well known to the media as well. I believe Chloe would have known him and had met him before. The other older person who is charged with assisting offenders, I'm not sure whether she was acquainted with him, but it does seem that she did know the 26-year-old and had known him previously.
Her family have referenced the fact that Chloe might be described as a vulnerable person.
Yeah, and how she was described by police as well as being a high risk missing person, and you know that that is often, I suppose, the case when it comes to killing like this, and young women who are maybe vulnerable or high risk or do have other problems are very susceptible, I suppose, to this type of predatory behaviour, and that seems to be the case in this. I suppose because we're waiting on this court case coming up, I can't say too much, but when the name of one of the suspects is named, I think people will be able to put two and two together and come to the conclusion of what it is I'm actually speaking about. But, you know, this is a very high risk offender, the person who police are now charging in connection with her murder.
Alison Morris, columnist with the Belfast Telegraph, commentator specialising in politics and security. Thank you very much for joining us.